Well, good afternoon. And yes, this is an afternoon walk rather than a day walk, which I normally do. It's a shorter walk, and as you've already seen, it's pretty muddy everywhere. Had so much rain again recently. There is mud everywhere, so it can be an interesting walk, and it may even be a walk that I may not be able to complete, but we will see. So today, and it is I think the 5th of April, today we are looking for the decoy, and we're heading for heathland. Now, decoys and heathland tend to be synonymous in many ways, because in World War II the heathland of Dorset was used very much to decoy enemy aircraft away from the towns and encourage them to drop their load on the heath rather than on the populated areas. So fires were lit. Look at that. Fires were lit all over Dorset heathland to fool them. But that's not the kind of decoy that we're looking for today, albeit we are heading for heathland. And not only is it quite mucky, but it's also windy. So I hope that doesn't affect the sound too much, because it will affect the microphone. But I'm hoping you'll be able to hear what I'm saying. So the kind of decoy we're looking for today is the duck variety. And we're heading for a decoy pond, which was used obviously for centuries to lure ducks and catch ducks for food and feathers. And there is a, well, comparatively well preserved one on this heathland that we're heading for, if we can reach it, because it is in the middle of Morden Bog, and by its very name that might mean it's going to be difficult. And if this is anything to go by, it'll be impossible. But we'll see. I've found some solid paths. So yes, this walk should be slightly shorter than my usual walks. It should only be 5 or 6 miles. But I've come here specifically to look for the decoy and to talk about decoy ponds and how they work, because it is an interesting subject. Not a subject I like. I don't like the idea of capturing ducks as an animal lover, but I guess in times past they needed food, they needed feathers, and I guess ducks provided both. turned off the main track now, and we're just heading across Morden Bog, and this path I hope shouldn't be too bad, because it is a made up, or kind of a made up gravel kind of a path that I guess is used by the rangers and so on, so it's usually not too bad. The problem will come later. And I haven't got my swimming trunks with me. What a lovely place to walk this is. Now I'm out of the mud a little bit. It's really nice walking through the woods. So we're going to take a detour off to the right temporarily. To take us to the first part of the Decoy complex. And this, believe it or not, is the Decoyman's house. So the guy who was responsible for looking after the ponds and the duck catching, etc., this is where he would live, or would have lived. It's actually been demolished, but the remnants of the cottage are here. And even a safe, which is interesting. Nothing in it. And that looks to me like the doorstep. You can see the walls, or what's left of them, and even a bath. I don't think that would hold water now somehow. So the Decoy Pond and the house, etc., was built in 1724 by the Drax family, who live at Charborough Park, which is just a few miles away from here. And I think this was probably all part of their land at one time. So the person who lived in this house would have been an employee of the Drax family, I guess. And the Decoy Pond would have been used for well over 100 years. Built in 1724, and it worked until 1856. What actually stopped it working was, in reality, the granting of shooting rights over the land which is around this, and obviously the firing of guns in the vicinity would not have really been any good for luring and catching ducks, so it ceased operation. So I've left the Decoyman's cottage behind and come out onto the open heath now. So this is Morden Bog, and boggy it looks. But over there in the distance you can see what would appear to be a decoy pond, and it's in fact named the Old Decoy Pond, but it's actually not a decoy pond in the accepted sense, as in there's no evidence of it having been used to trap ducks. It's thought, in fact, that it's obviously a very large pond and it's random shape, so it's thought that it was a lure, if you like, a main pond, in order simply to bring ducks into the area so that they can be lured into the actual decoy pond proper, which is further over, which hopefully we'll find in a minute. But that is old Decoy Pond in the middle of the heath. Well, I've come almost full circle now around the old Decoy Pond. But I can't actually get up to the shoreline because it's just so boggy everywhere. You can see where I was just now. You see the track going up the side of the hill in the distance. Such a lovely place here, but when it's so boggy it makes life really difficult. It's unbelievable, and there is no solid ground to walk on. Just glad I got my walking pole and my waterproof boots on. And you really wouldn't want to try walking across this. This doesn't bode well, because that is impassable. And I think that's where I'm meant to be going. Okay. Back to the drawing board. Well, this is proving to be a bit of an adventure. Because it's so boggy, and because that path that I was meant to go along, or at least ways, it's the one I've always gone along, it was impassable, well, short of paddling up to my thighs. I've been forced to take a long detour, but I'm hoping we'll still get to see the Decoy Pond if it's possible. But hey, don't hold your breath. It's a beautiful bit of Dorset heathland and bog. And even though it's a detour, it's a lovely one. The spring foliage. So, what is a decoy pond? Well, you imagine like a 50p coin with 5 sides. It's a small pond with that kind of shape, 5 sides, which means there are also 5 points. So it's made so that each of those points is extended outwards like a kind of star shape, I suppose. And each of those points has over the top of it some netting, which therefore forms 5 tunnels, effectively 5 tunnels that get narrower and curve as you head towards the end. And those 5 points are known as pipes. And the idea is the ducks are lured up into those pipes, not realizing until it's too late that there is nowhere to go when they reach the end, and that's when they're trapped. So how do they get the ducks to go down the pipes? Well, normally the decoy man would use a dog which would be seen by the ducks as a predator. And along the side of each of these pipes there would be fence panels or shrubbery organised so that the duck catches glimpses of the dog either between fence panels or between bushes, so that it would keep them aware of the threat, and then, relying on the duck's propensity to keep its predator in view by following it, the duck is lured up to the end of the pipe, where there is of course nowhere to go. And it's a very interesting, I don't like it, it's not my idea of fun, killing animals, but clearly it was necessary, and it worked. But the pond is small, the true decoy pond is small. The one we saw earlier was simply the general lure to bring them into the area, and then the smaller pond is the one that was used for the trapping. So far so good. I turned off my main gravel track, heading across the heath itself, or the bog, Morden Bog, and the decoy pond is up in front of me. And I'll never forget the day I first found the decoy pond. It was a cloudy grey day and there was thick mist as I came across here, and it was a bit like something out of The Hound of the Baskervilles, where they're on a heath, aren't they, and there's a bog and people get lured into this bog to their death. And it was really like that. It was really eerie, and it kind of suited the walk, to be honest. And it was awesome. Yeah, I'll never forget that. I'm expecting this to get boggier as we go in here. Right. They say put bridges up for us to get across the channels, because there's like a stream that runs around the pond that actually feeds it. I hope we can still get through, as it still looks very waterlogged. Ah. There's the building. That's the Decoyman's overnight shelter. I can get over there. This is where a pole comes in handy. Can I get through to it? Better turn the camera off a minute. Oh, I made it over that bit. And here we are. This is the Decoyman's overnight shelter. Very small building, which has just one room, little window, and in this corner, well, you can see it very well, there's a fireplace and a chimney, and over the top would have been probably a thatched roof, but that's long gone, so there's not a lot left of this shelter. But the pond itself is actually in amongst these trees. I will put up an overhead picture because, to be honest, it's more visible in the overhead picture than it is on the ground, because the foliage has swamped it really. But in the middle of this is the small Decoy Pond, 5-sided with 5 pipes leading outwards. And it is apparently one of the best preserved decoy ponds in the country. Although, as I say, the foliage and the ground has kind of come up and covered the pond really, which makes it non-visible. It's kind of been encroached. You can see the little stream that goes through here, which fed the pond. And this is where they would have trapped the ducks. As I say, it was all part of the Charborough Park estate and owned by the Drax family. I don't know whether their trapping was for their purpose only, their use only, or whether they sold it or whatever. I think generally speaking it was for the homeowners or the landowners' use, but if there was surplus they'd probably be sold at the market. But it's another one of those places I love. It's because of the mystery of it, especially the first time I came when it was really misty and you couldn't really see. It was really eerie, and it's right in the middle of the heath, of the bog, and you can just imagine treading in the wrong place here and sinking into the ground, into the mud. And yeah, the Decoyman spent the night here. And there's a little bit of sun trying to make a breakthrough without much success. So we've got bog that side, you can get through there, or it's like a stream, as I say. There's bog that side. There's the house. And there's bog this side. So I've got to try and find my way through. It's quite difficult. It's this. It's quite deep. Made it. Probably better to come in the summer, but hey, gives you a sense of adventure, eh? That's an awesome place. Eerie. Expect to hear the sound of that hound of the Baskerville howling in a minute. Woo! Right, tread on this without falling off. Whoop. Right. Morden Bog, both sides of the track. And a bridge to get over. Now we've got a duck. Made it. Yeah, well, it was difficult and boggy, but well worth it. See, looking from here, you wouldn't even know that pond or the Decoyman's overnight shelter was even there. Kind of quite like that. Actually, I could spend the weekend in that place if it had a roof. It'd be rather nice. Right, see if we can find our way out again. So back in the 18th century, I guess this would have been a thriving place. And the 19th century as well, until it closed down. It's quite strange really to think that decoying ducks stopped or faded when shooting rights were granted. Maybe that meant they could shoot deer. I guess that's probably what it is it? They probably shot deer and maybe they preferred that to ducks. I don't know. But, yeah, interesting. And now it's a very quiet and peaceful nature reserve. So as I said earlier, all of this land around here was part of the Charborough Park estate, owned by the Drax family, and still is. It's actually owned by Richard Drax now. And Charborough Park is a large estate and probably most known for its tower, which can be seen from miles around. So I think it's just a folly, but it's in part of the estate. And also for the brick wall, red brick wall, that surrounds the house, the estate, which is said to be the longest continuous brick wall in the country. I don't know if that's true. What though certainly is true probably is that it's the most often punctured brick wall in the country, because if you drive round the road that skirts past the estate, I don't think you ever go past it without finding another section of the wall gone down where some car has gone off the road. So they seem to be forever repairing this brick wall. Another fact that's about Charborough Park estate. So I thought I would stop and say hi to the Decoyman again on the way back. Use his seat, use his safe as a seat. I actually don't think this is a Decoyman safe, to be honest, bearing in mind they ceased operation in 1856. I suspect this follows on from that. This is a subsequent edition, whatever this was used for. I have a feeling it may have been a holiday let at one time, but I can't swear to that. Somebody else might know. Anyway, we found the Decoy Pond. We met the Decoyman, and I'm glad about that. It's quite funny when you think back, because when I reached the bit of where the path was impassable, I was literally less than 100 yards away from the Decoy Pond. But to reach it and to get across that less than 100 yards, it was a 2 or 3 mile detour all the way around the outside of the bog, because there's no way of getting across the middle. So it's been a really good walk in the end. Rather in and out walk, quite laborious and hard going in the mud and mire, but it's actually going to turn out to be 7 miles, I think. But it's been a great walk anyway, and I've loved it, and I'm glad we found all the things I wanted to film. And so this is really just to say thanks for coming with me. I'm going to sign off at this point and head off because the light's going. So yeah, thanks for coming with me. Hope you've enjoyed it. I've loved it, of course, as always, and it's been quite an adventure. So this is me, the Dorset Rambler, saying until next time.